The Honourable Brad Pettit.
I want to speak briefly on bridges, local governments and main roads. And it comes on the back of some debates that we've been having across our communities, and certainly it came to a head last night in the city of Fremantle over the new Swan River Crossings project, otherwise known as the Fremantle Bridge Replacement Project. And it's bringing, I think, out a trend that I think needs to be highlighted and some changes made. The council, the committee of the council last night rightfully rejected the proposal that's been put forward by Main Roads for the Swan River Crossing project. It's another project which is, I think, insensitive, would obliterate the heritage of the area, obliterate a lot of the trees and the natural cliffs of the area, one that literally looks like a freeway designed anywhere on the planet without a sense of place, without any sense of co-design with community. And council rightfully said they were asked, the officer's recommendation was to support it, and they declined to do so. And I think that was the right call, as much as I like to stay out of local government these days. But they also said their frustration is this is not a local government project. This is not something the City of Fremantle can actually have a final say in. It's actually a project that actually sits with the state government, and hence I'm speaking of it tonight in this House. This is a project in which actually nothing has been built, but as I asked a question earlier this year, over $35 million has already been expended, which is pretty extraordinary given actually nothing's happened yet. And that's because it's been around design, going backwards and forwards. When I was mayor, Main Roads spent 18 months defending an indefensible design of having the bridge to the east of the current bridge, only after 18 months of community pushback to say, OK, we'll move it west. Perhaps that's where some of that $35 million has gone. They're now spending months and months of community time trying to create a ramp that goes under the old bridge, actually taking Canning Highway, believe it or not, down onto the Swan River foreshore. Why we are kind of, and again, rightfully, there's a huge amount of community outrage, and that this is actually the impacts of that would have on the local road network and the like. In fact, one of the most bizarre, I got a briefing by Main Roads in this last week, and one of the most bizarre bits of it was, and I was like, well, hey, they want to reduce Canning Highway and Beach Street, which is currently 6 lanes in total, down to 2, and run it along the foreshore. I was like, how's that going to work? They said, that's right, oh, the traffic numbers that you think use those roads are actually much lower. I was like, the traffic numbers that are on your website, apparently they're wrong. Traffic numbers on Main Roads' own website aren't reliable. In fact, they're probably out by 50%, according to Main Roads. But I was like, well, what are the numbers? Oh, we don't know. But we're redesigning a traffic network on numbers that we don't know. At the heart of the problem that I want to highlight here is actually we have this weird way of driving traffic projects in this state that is not done with community. This is not a Freo-specific thing. On the other end of town, in Midland, we've got the Lloyd Street project. Again, a project that the council of Swan, City of Swan, said is not a good project, it needs to change. And were ultimately pressured into supporting the project only for many months later, after Main Roads pushing this very hard. The Minister, I don't want to congratulate Minister Saffioti, finally did the right thing and said, actually, we will look at realigning and moving that project. Again, after wasting millions of dollars. Surely, can we just learn from this? There needs to be a process in which the community, the local governments actually get to co-design properly with Main Roads, with the Department of Transport, how these things are going. I mean, putting aside why Main Roads are involved in actually designing urban projects of this kind, it actually should be a holistic design that's done with planning, with transport. For Main Roads, I often say every solution is a bigger road. And that's actually, and often even when that's not the right solution. We actually need to get better than this. And I raise it here because we're wasting millions of dollars. We're wasting tens of millions of dollars in projects that get delayed, get kicked down the road, get changed endlessly because they're not done in consultation with community. We can do it better, we can do it smarter, we can get better outcomes. And unfortunately, the City of Fremantle, whilst they weren't supportive of the Main Roads design, may still get the Main Roads design because ultimately it's not their call. And this is actually where we actually need a much better process that can do these things. It'll be a process that will save money, that will actually be linked to place, local knowledge and better outcomes, not just the faster moving of cars. And I think there are enough frustrations with this here where I hope there is somebody out there listening, because I know local governments aren't being heard, which is why I raised it here. There is somebody out there listening that we need to do this better and smarter, and actually in a way that actually makes our cities work, because the current process clearly isn't working.
The Honourable Wilson Tucker.
Thank you, President. President, on the 8th of September, the last resident of Whitnoom, Lorraine Thomas, was evicted from her home and from the town. Now, I believe we're all familiar with Whitnoom in this place. It is considered the largest contamination site in the Southern Hemisphere. And the eviction of Lorraine Thomas won't come as a surprise for members. I'm sure we dealt with the Whitnoom closure bill earlier this year, which gives the government the ability to acquire the remaining land in Whitnoom with the intent of flattening the town and therefore reducing some of the appeal of people visiting the town and potentially being exposed to the asbestos tailings and then potentially contracting mesothelioma as a result. President, I spoke in support of the bill, and so I'm not personally opposed to the destruction of Whitnoom or the eviction of Lorraine Thomas. However, I am opposed to how Lorraine Thomas was evicted and the events that led up to Ms Thomas's eviction. There has been a lot of, as you'd expect, some misinformation floating around on social media around the events that have folded and the intention of Ms Thomas staying in Whitnoom. And so I'd like to take this opportunity of trying to set the public record straight and clear up some of that misinformation that has been floating around. President, I've spoken to Elaine Thomas, who is the daughter of Lorraine, and she expressed her wish to try and set the record straight and highlight some of the, as well as highlighting the timeline and the sequence of events and the communication with the Department